I've always loved the sound of rain. As a remote copywriter living alone in a small cottage on the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina, the rainy nights usually help me focus. My apartment is tucked behind an old craftsman-style house, shaded by ancient oaks and shielded by a tall wooden fence. It's a little detached studio, cozy, quiet, and just remote enough that you don't hear the traffic from the highway. On nights like this, when the thunder rolls across the mountains and the air smells like damp bark and churned up soil, I feel like I'm in a cabin deep in the woods. That April night, I made some tea around 7 p.m., dimmed the lights, and opened a few windows to let in the storm. I had a project due the next morning, so I sat at my desk with my laptop, the rain tapping the glass and the wind brushing the trees. There were a few rumbles of thunder, nothing dramatic. The lights blinked a bit, but the power held steady. It was peaceful. I was even humming to myself at one point, just enjoying the calm and the rhythm of typing. But the calm broke. Around 8:30, there was a flash of light outside, bright enough to cast stark shadows on the walls, followed by a crack, like something splitting apart right above the house. The lights in the house dimmed, flickered, then cut out completely. My laptop screen stayed lit for another second before blinking into darkness. I sighed and leaned back in my chair. It wasn't the first time. Storms in the mountains could get intense, and losing power wasn't unusual. I grabbed the lighter from my drawer and lit a couple of candles. The flickering light gave the apartment a golden, uneven glow, casting long, dancing shadows in every corner. The darkness settled in. And then I heard a knock. But it wasn't from the front door, the one everyone uses. It came from the back, from the kitchen door, the one that opened to the fenced-in alley. Nobody ever used that door. I hadn't even opened it in weeks, and the gate beyond it was always latched. The knock came again. 3 solid, spaced-out raps, not frantic, not timid, just eerie. I stood completely still, candle in hand, staring toward the kitchen. My first thought was that maybe a neighbor got confused, but no one should have been back there, especially not during a storm like this. My landlord always used the front path. I didn't realize it at first, but I was barely breathing. I moved toward the kitchen slowly, the candle casting dancing shadows on the walls. When I reached the door, I saw him. A man. He was standing just beyond the glass. He was completely soaked, his jacket clinging to him, his jeans dark with water, his boots puddling onto the mat. No umbrella, no protection, just standing there under the pouring rain like he didn't feel it. He looked to be in his late 30s, maybe 40s, a ball cap pulled low over his eyes with a calm expression. You know when someone looks too calm? I didn't open the door. My instinct screamed not to. He looked up, spotted me, and gave a faint smile, then lifted one hand and gestured as if to say, "Come here." I didn't move. I stayed right where I was, behind the table, my body locked up with fear. He spoke through the glass. "Sorry to bother you. My car broke down just up the alley. I just need to use your phone real quick." Even through the thick glass, I could hear the smoothness in his voice. Too friendly, too chill, like asking to borrow sugar. It didn't fit the situation. I shook my head. "Sorry, I can't help you." He gave me this puzzled little tilt of the head, like he didn't understand. Then the smile returned, wider now, and he said my name. Mara. "Please, Mara, it'll only take a second." He didn't ask. He just said it plain and soft, like we already knew each other. My heart started pounding against my ribs. I hadn't introduced myself. I hadn't said a word except to tell him no. I didn't have a nameplate anywhere. How did he know? He tapped one knuckle gently against the glass again. "Come on, don't be rude. You've got your phone right there." I backed away, keeping the candle in front of me like it offered protection. I didn't say another word, just turned, walked to the bathroom, and locked myself inside. I sat on the edge of the tub, trying to steady my hands enough to unlock my phone. Still no power, no signal either. The storm must have knocked out the nearest tower, or maybe the mountains were blocking the reception. I tried to dial 911 anyway. Nothing. I sat there in the dark, just me and the candle, alone in that oppressive silence, feeling completely cut off from the world. A few minutes crawled by, then something moved. A dull, low thud from the living room, like someone stepped too hard on an old floorboard. I strained to hear over the sound of the rain now hammering the roof. Another sound, closer, a soft bump, like something brushed the hallway wall. I covered my mouth with my hand and stayed still. I could feel the air tighten around me, like the space was getting smaller. I stared at the door, afraid it might swing open. My phone still had no service. The glow of the screen mocked me. Then finally, the power flickered back. The bathroom light clicked on, blinding me for a second. I blinked and checked my phone. 2 bars. I called the police and kept my voice low. The dispatcher listened, took my address, and said someone was on the way. She asked if I felt safe to stay on the line, but I said no. I was scared to make any noise. She told me to stay put and keep the door locked. It took 52 minutes for the officer to arrive. When he knocked this time, at the front, I demanded his badge number and name before I so much as unlatched the door. He stepped inside, checked around with a flashlight, then made his way to the back. The man was gone. But there were tracks, muddy footprints that led away from the back door and vanished into the tree line. No tire marks, no second set of prints, just his. I told the officer everything. He filed a report and said they'd add extra patrols through the area for a few days, but they didn't seem surprised. He looked at me and said, "We get reports like this more than you'd think. Criminals who wait for storms to cover the sound of them breaking in." That didn't make me feel better. I moved out a month later, found a new place across town, somewhere with street lights, neighbors, no back door. Whenever it rains, my mind goes right back to that night, especially when it comes down hard, when it drowns out every other sound. And I still freeze when I hear a knock. The sound of his voice saying my name echoes in my head. And the absence of tire marks. I know what I saw. The footprints didn't come from a broken car. He came from within the forest. And he knew my name. A week after moving into my new house, I received a small box in the mail. It had no return address. Inside, there was a small carved wooden object. It was a perfect miniature of my old house, complete with the fence and the tiny back door leading to the alley. And on the front door, a name was carved into the wood. Mara. My blood ran cold. That man hadn't known my name by chance or from a nameplate. He knew me. He had watched me. He saw my new address. I started having panic attacks. The police couldn't do anything without proof, just advice to lock the doors. 2 months passed, no other letters. The anxiety lessened, replaced by a silent, constant fear. One night, a storm caught me by surprise, a heavy rain with thunder and lightning. I tried to calm myself, remembering I was in a safe place. Late in the night, the rain subsided. The wind stopped. A strange silence filled the air. I lay in bed, relieved. Then, a creak. It came from the living room. It wasn't a floorboard, it was the sound of heavy wood moving. I froze. The living room of my new house had a large window facing the street. The blind was closed, but I could see the silhouette of the slats through the dim streetlight. And the silhouette moved. Slowly, a gap opened, and a slender, elongated shape peered through. Its head was tilted. I could feel a fixed gaze on me. I had no candles this time. The darkness was absolute. My heart was a drum. The blind opened a little more. I couldn't breathe. The shape moved, and I could see something. A slender hand reached out and began to slide across my window. Instead of nails, the hand had thin, dark claws, which made a scraping sound against the glass. Slowly, the hand drew a single word in the condensation on the window. My name, Mara. My mouth opened to scream, but no sound came out. I felt a presence in the house, not in the living room, in my bedroom, behind me. The door to my closet, which I had locked, slowly opened. The sound of old wood, dry and agonizing, echoed in the room. Behind me, a whisper, the same smooth voice I heard through the back door at my old house. "Don't be scared, Mara. We just wanted to play hide and seek." And then a creak that didn't come from my closet. It came from above, from my bed, as if someone was crawling on the ceiling. I felt the bed dip, as if a weight was balancing on it. I didn't know what to do, where to look, at the man in the window or at what was crawling above me. The whisper came again, closer, seeming to come from all directions at once. "We always knew." I didn't know who we were, but I knew they didn't want to play. I started to scream, a long, terrible note of pure horror, and the whisper whispered one last time, closer than I could have imagined. "You have a new place now, don't you? And an alley, and we know your name." I collapsed in on myself, a terrified heap, knowing I was alone in the darkness with something in my bed and a man with claws at my window. And they knew my name. They knew where I lived. They knew everything. And they were only just beginning to play.